That's it, man. We're live. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hendrickson. If you're brand new to this podcast, you can expect to hear open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development. We're kind of just talking about that. Please welcome John. Is it Authier?
Yeah. I usually just say Authier because, I'm from the States.
Yeah.
I know up here it's probably pronounced Authier.
Yeah. That's how I would guess it. But, yeah, welcome to the show, man. Welcome to Canada. Dude, actually, yeah, we should start off by saying that. Like, dude flew up from California literally yesterday, and then I just scooped him up from his hotel. We brought him here. We're going to have some dinner tonight, but why don't you just kind of give everyone, like, kind of an introduction, like, kind of introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you're all about, and we'll just chat from there.
Okay. Well, yeah, my name is John from Los Angeles, California. I am a personal trainer, fitness coach, online coach. Me and my wife both do that. Very big on, mental health, big on sobriety and personal development, which is what attracted me to, the podcast. So, yeah, thanks for having me, man. Canada's been great so far. It's been fun so far.
You don't have to say that.
Yeah. No, it's been good, man. Everyone has been giving us a good experience.
That's wicked, man. And you actually, it's funny because most of the time when people reach out to me and ask to be on the podcast, I usually like ignore it or just like kind of like, yeah. I'm like, man, I don't really, it feels like, I don't know. I feel like everyone that kind of approaches me, and this is kind of maybe just like an ego thing. I'm like, man, let me ask you. But when you reached out to me and you actually emailed me as well. So I was like, yo, when I read your email and I was like, this guy sounds legit. Like I actually if I looked you up on Instagram, I followed you. I'm like, yo, this guy seems legit, man. But like, what made you want to kind of reach out and kind of speak? Because you said you haven't even been on a podcast before. So like, what made you interested in kind of being on a show?
Well, I've always thought about starting my own show, and I started working with Wes Watson. And he made a suggestion to send my bio out, to some podcasts that would fit, my message. And I saw, I think his name's Calvin was on the show. Yeah. And I follow him, which is how I found your show. And then I was like, you know what, this one, seems like a match. So go ahead and send it out.
Dude, one day I'm gonna have Wes Watson on this podcast because you're the third guy now that's been on this show that works with Wes Watson, and one day you'll be on the show, Wes. But yeah, dude, I've followed him for years, actually. Wes Watson, one of my, like a couple years ago, I think it must have been like 2018, one of my buddies showed me Wes Watson and was like showing me him as a joke. Like he's like, man, look how ridiculous this guy is. It was like right when he started popping off on YouTube, when he did like his GP stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, look how ridiculous this guy is. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, haha. Except he's legit.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. Like he was making it work from prison. Like there's no excuse not to get shit done.
Yeah. It was so funny though, because my buddy's like showing me like as if it's a joke, and I'm like, yo, I actually love this guy's content. I've even shown Teddy like on a couple of road trips that we did. I downloaded some of his YouTube stuff, and I'm like, yo, just listen to the message. Like legitimately listen to the message. Put aside like the way he speaks and just listen to the message. And she's like, I really like his content.
It's crazy because he sounds so intellectual, but like street at the same time,
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to him. It's it actually makes me think. I actually have to really think about what he's saying.
Yeah. So when did you kind of start like what you would consider like kind of your self-development fitness journey? Like how did that kind of all start for you?
Personal development. Yeah, that probably started in like 2016 or 17. I came across Gary Vee. Started listening to his stuff. I became first form Legionnaire, so I got connected with Andy and his podcast, and then it just started to go from there. But it got really serious about this past year. Ever since I got sober, just like kind of like started to practice what I've been learning. Instead of just absorbing the information, I started to actually apply it.
Yeah. So you were kind of absorbing it for a couple years. Like I got a pretty similar story that way as well. Actually, 2016 was when I started. I was like literally the year that I read my first book. I lived my whole life by not reading books. I was like, man, I'm not good at reading. Fuck that. And I just never read books. And then I had a job where I was like a general manager at a gym. and I knew I was gonna quit. I gave like a month's notice. It ended up being like a month and a half. I stayed longer, but I gave them like I think 6 weeks notice, and I was like, at the end of so and so month, I'm gonna be out of here. I'm gonna try my own thing, and so like a lot of the time was spent just sitting in my office, and I was just like, fuck, I'm gonna try and use this time productively, and I started reading because I was just like, I'm on salary, like fuck it, I'm just gonna read in my office. That was like 2016 was like the first time I read a book.
Yeah, no, I don't think I read a full book at all throughout going, like, through school and everything, you know? And then, yeah, like, once I got really serious and started to really see the value in a lot of these books, you know, now now I get excited, you know, to buy a new book.
Yeah, I'm the exact same, man. We have like you guys got Chapters Indigo. Do you guys have that?
No,
It's like a
no.
bookstore. Okay. I got like a Chapters membership, like they call it like a plum card. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna use the shit out of
Yeah.
this book. I get
Yeah, definitely.
discounts on books and stuff now. It's like that's one of the main things I spend my money on. Like, as you can see, like there's kind of books all over the place here, and like 90% of them are just like self-development books, whether they relate to like business, fitness, like money, debt, anything along those lines. There's very few. I'm just branching out to reading novels now. I don't know what kind. Like, do you just read like a lot of self-development stuff?
Yeah, that's mainly it. Something that I can, you know, use and apply, you
Yeah.
know? The only, you know, I have some comics and stuff, you know, some like, not just like individual, but like the books, you know, stuff like that. But not too many.
I'm the exact same. Like, my grandma gave me a novel to read, and I was like, man, maybe I'll give her a book to read as well. And I'm like looking through, I'm like, I don't think grandma's really into reading about like fucking fitness and money. So I was like struggling to give her something to read, but that's sick, man. So like with, cause we were literally just talking right before we recorded about, kind of like sobriety and recovery. Like what made you want to kind of get sober? Like, did you have like kind of a, you know, a lot of people talk about having like their rock bottoms or like a downward path that they were following. Did you have something like that, or?
Yeah, definitely. It was about, I want to say almost 2 years of like almost a daily drinking. And then the last like 2 months got really, really bad. You know, my marriage was about to end. So I was like hiding it basically for 2 years, like trying to sneak it around, you know? And then, you know, my wife finally found out, you know, shit hit the fan, and it was either that or, you know, be on my own. So, you know, I had no choice, but I had been wanting to get sober for a long time. I just couldn't commit, you know?
Mm-hmm. So like when, you know, like a lot of people go towards recovery, like even in my path, like I had a lot of friends that were already kind of in NA, like my group of friends, like half of us were like, all right, we need to sober up. Like there's a lot of us fucking our lives up. We had a lot of like a couple of buddies like pass away. A lot of people were getting hospitalized. A lot of people were going into like shit tons of debt, and then a lot of people were just like, yo, fuck it, you guys can't handle your stuff, we're gonna keep partying. So like we kind of split in half. Like I had like a few buddies of mine that were already going to NA meetings, and like a couple of them were taking like 1 year or 2 years sober. So it was natural for me to kind of gravitate towards, you know, starting to go to meetings, starting a 12-step program. And then that's kind of how I started my recovery journey. But you were saying that you kind of just did everything on your own, which I think is actually really sick. Like that's kind of the way I'm going about it now as well. Like I stopped going to meetings after a few months. Sorry guys, but but like how did you kind of go about like recovery for yourself?
My wife and my aunt, they wanted to put me in rehab, but you know, I kept telling them that I knew I could do this. You know, like I knew I had the discipline. So I kind of had to remind myself about how disciplined I could be. Like, yeah, I've done bodybuilding competitions and powerlifting competitions, so I know that if I really committed to something, you know, I could stick with it. So it's just about really believing myself and making that full commitment, getting through those first couple weeks when you're going through withdrawals, you know, and then after that it was easy, you know, because you feel amazing. You start to remember what your normal feels like, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so like was it like weird for you? Like did you have to change up like a lot of things in your life? Like were you like because you said you were drinking alone a lot of the time. Was it like kind of in your social circles? Was it like kind of normalized where like everyone was just drinking all the time, or?
It was usually by myself. Because like I said, I would hide it. I'd sneak it around. So, yeah, I just stayed busy. I started 75 hard. And that helped also. So I was busy all day. Plus I was taking care of the kids. So yeah, the main thing was staying busy, trying to break the habit. So learning what triggered the cravings, and avoiding those or replacing them. That was the main thing.
Yeah. And then in the last like maybe year or so, or maybe 2 years, like I noticed that you've got kind of like your online business going as well. Do you train people in person or just online?
I train in person also. Our family room is half a gym.
Yeah.
So yeah, we both train out of our home.
That's sick, man. And so how has your business changed? Like, has that been affected at all?
I mean, literally every aspect of my life has improved. My relationship, my business, and the funny thing is, I always knew that once I could give up the alcohol, that my life was just gonna like take off. It was just gonna rapidly improve, and it did. Shit, I'm even here right now. Like it's just, all the good things in my life have come after sobriety.
Yeah. Were you training people before?
Yeah, I was. And a lot of times, again, I wasn't even. I was under the influence, like while training, because I started to feel like I needed it to socialize. I needed it to get things done. But yeah, like I said, I just had to break the habit and then prove to myself that I am still that person, whether I'm sober or not. Like the person that I thought alcohol made me, like I thought it made me better in certain ways, that person was still me, even without the alcohol.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, that's so relatable as well because like I've always been like big fan of, like I said, like I definitely have my bouts with alcohol because I'm just one of those people. I didn't drink like every day. I wasn't like a regular drinker. But anytime I did drink, it was like to black out. Like that was just the way everything in my life is just like 0 to 100. Like that's just the way I operate. I'm very like extreme that way. But for me, like a lot of the issues I dealt with addiction were a lot of behavioral addictions, and then a lot of it was like just to drugs. Like I wouldn't even need, like I used to joke like part of my identity when I'd go to parties is like, oh no alcohol, like just drugs for me. Like that's like that was part of who I was. And like it was like obviously from party drugs to just like the daily weed smoking, like all day every day. Like when I met my girlfriend, it was like I was smoking like minimum 10 joints a day, like bong beside my bed. It was the first thing I did in the morning, last thing I would do before I went to bed. And it became like a part of my identity. Like I was like the guy, like even throughout all my friend group, like I was the guy that was just like always high. And like it would be almost like for me, like it felt like a flex because like I'd still be training like minimum 2 hours a day. I was working like 10 hours a day. And it was like, look, like I'm doing all this, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm high the entire time. Like I had like this like goofy little laugh. Like that was like part of my identity was like I can do all this stuff and still use drugs all day, every day. And when I first sobered up, I was like, just all my emotions kind of hit me all at once. And a lot of my emotions manifested as like anger. And I didn't know how to be like kind of happy or cheery or like playful and funny without like smoking weed or doing any drugs. Like it was like really confusing for me because I was like, I feel like it's part of my personality.
Yeah, I get it 100%. And the funny thing is your mind will keep justifying you to continue it. Like the fact that you were able to get all those things done while still being high. Like your mind just can tell you it's okay to do it,
Yeah. And like there's still like conversations I have in my own head where it's like, maybe this will help me unwind. Maybe this will help me relax. Like maybe man. I could do more.
I try to explain that to my wife and she thinks I'm crazy when I tell her that there's like a voice, there's always a voice trying to convince you, that it's okay, and she thinks I'm crazy, but I know people that, are also addicts, they get what I'm saying, and it's always about trying to have evidence to back up, like you've done 75 hard, so there's the bitch voice,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right, and then there's the boss voice. So you need to have enough evidence for the boss voice to win.
Break that down for people that haven't done 75 hard before. Like what kind
So
of?
yeah, so the bitch voice is the voice that tries to go the easy route, the comfortable route, and give you the instant gratification. So whether it's trying to get up early to go work out, you'll have the bitch voice telling you to sleep in, to snooze, that you'll do it later, something like that. And then there's always the other voice that's telling you the correct thing to do, the thing that you need the most. So it's learning how to identify the bitch voice and choose the boss voice more.
Yeah. And man, that can be manifested in so many different ways. Like I literally last night, so it was like, I think like 9 o'clock. I was like kind of, cause Teddy was at her parents' place. She was helping her sister out with the baby all week, and I knew she was coming home today. So I was like, okay, I gotta take care of a lot of the chores. Like I gotta do all the dishes in the sink, empty out the dishwasher, clean our bed sheets, do all the laundry, wash all the towels. Like I had this big list of shit that I had to take care of. And then like I have my non-negotiables for every single day as well. So like obviously work out, meal prep, like make sure I have meals for the next day. And then some of the two of the other things that I do are read and journal every single day. Like I just can't compromise on that. And I remember writing last night in my journal, like right before I go to bed. It's like 9:45, 10ish, which is late for me because I'm up at like between 4 and 5 every day. And so I'm like telling myself in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be journaling tomorrow morning when I wake up. Like it's less than 8 hours away. Like that's just going to be the first thing I do anyways. Like, do I really need a journal right now? And the first thing I write down in my journal is like, I was trying to tell myself that I'm going to do this tomorrow, but I do that too much in my life. Like I just need to sit down and journal about this right now. Like even though that's such a small little minute thing, just like writing in a journal of just like how your day went. It was like I was just like trying to convince myself like, yo, I'm going to be journaling in like 6 hours from now. Do I really need to do this now before I go to bed? And then all the little voices in my head start coming like, it might be better just to go to bed earlier. It might be better to just like relax and kick back, like get the rest that you need. And I was like, no, because I can't allow myself to break these habits of things that are actually going to be beneficial for me and compromise. And then the thing I wrote this morning was, the answer isn't to do less. Like, it's just so that I should have been more disciplined before this. I should have been more disciplined yesterday so I could have gone to bed earlier.
Yeah.
Like it's like I put myself in a bad position and then made an excuse for it, was going to compromise for it. And it's like, no, the answer isn't do less. Like, it's like, do whatever you said you were going to do and be disciplined enough so that you're not like backed up. You're not like, oh, fuck, I need to go to bed. I need to do this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's that the moment you compromise once, the second compromise is going to come. And then the third, it just gets easier and easier to make those compromises, So it's avoiding that first one.
Yeah.
That's so important, That's one thing I talk a lot about with my clients, especially the ones that are trying to, quit alcohol, is you can't compromise because the moment you do it once, there's going to be that voice trying to justify the second one and the third and so on.
Yeah. So when someone like comes and they kind of start like a program with you, I'm assuming you work with them with nutrition, you probably work with them with their workouts, obviously. What other things do you work with them?
We focus a lot on just the mentality, not everyone's open to it, but I push, personal development a lot. Very similar to 75 hard, but I don't make everyone do like the 6 tasks or whatever every day. But same idea as far as being disciplined and staying consistent, on a daily basis. But yeah, that's it, workouts, tracking your macros and calories, stuff like that. Yeah, and then a lot of the mentality stuff, and then there are a few people that have come to me trying to get sober. So having someone there to talk about, that stuff, because it's still a weird subject for a lot of people. It's kind of a weird thing where if you're sober, it's like there's something wrong. But, because alcohol is so widely accepted, and pushed upon everyone. So, Yeah, it's hard for people to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I always, some of the things I've been asking recently to people as well is like, do you think that there's like a reason why alcohol and like even like BC, you're from California, I'd say the cultures are pretty similar in this way. Like weed is definitely like something that's
Oh yeah,
normalized, stigmatized, like well, I wouldn't say stigmatized, it's normalized. And it's like pushed. Like there's like a cannabis place you can buy weed every fucking corner.
yeah,
Like it's like weed and booze are pretty much the easiest things. Like I'd say it's almost easier. Yeah, the liquor store is closer than the grocery store.
yeah, and that's what makes it so hard to avoid, right? Like, anytime you go out with some friends, you're gonna be surrounded by alcohol. At every single grocery store, every convenience store, they have it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, as Andy says, I think that's by design to make weak men. Weak men are easier to control. You know, um,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that. We're pretty aligned that way with that mindset and mentality. I think one of the best things that Andy says all the time is like personal development is the ultimate rebellion.
oh, definitely.
Like I was talking about that the other day because I have a mental health group where we either meet up or we do a Zoom call every single Sunday. So like a lot of us like will even like I've started bringing people like that are looking for more community. I'm like, come to church with us. Like I go to church every Sunday morning, and then like we'll just go and grab coffees after. We'll go for a hike after. And we're in a coffee shop last week, and a lot of us are kind of like tinfoil hatters, and we're sitting around like obviously we're sitting around. We're talking about all these different things in that are going on in the world. And I was like, guys, I don't know, like if you listen to this podcast, but I was telling them to listen to Andy Frizzola's podcast. And I'm like, you guys have to understand, like, this is why I'm so passionate about like getting your money up, getting your fitness better, getting healthier, getting stronger, getting more independent. Because like, if you hate all the stuff that's going on in the world, this is your way out. Like, that's the only way out.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I feel I knew this was gonna be such a good match because even just like on the car ride over here, man, like we see the world pretty much the same, and it's probably because, like you said, this BC is a lot like California, so we experience the same crap that's going on,
Yeah. How has it been? Because you live your whole life in California?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. What do you mean pretty much?
So when I was when I was a kid, my dad moved us to Texas.
So you got a taste of the good life.
I was from age 1 to 5.
Oh, okay.
So his idea was he did HVAC.
Yeah.
So his idea was that it's really hot in Texas, so there must be a lot of work, But again, he had his own alcohol issues. Like that didn't work out. We ended up having to move back.
Okay.
So I was born in California.
But yeah, and raised there most of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like how like has that been a struggle for you in the past like obviously a few years? There's been a lot of things like we could dive into in regards to that, but like have you found like yourself frustrated with kind of the current I guess I hate the word climate, but I'll use that word. But like the current climate and I'm not talking about the weather when I say that, but like just how California's been, because I feel like a lot of the things we were talking about on the drive here is like very similar to how Canada's been. Like our whole country is basically treated the last few years the same way California did, and I know I've thought about kind of my frustrations, but like how has that impacted you and your family? Have you guys considered other options? Are you like, I'm staying here no matter what?
No, I mean we've talked about moving to a different state, but my wife's family, is in California, and my kids, they are really close with their grandparents, so it would be too hard. But yeah, it's frustrating, like a lot of times I'm just thinking, how does not everyone see the same what we're saying? Sorry that I butchered that, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's homeless people like everywhere. Prices for everything are through the roof. Like we have like an egg shortage right now where like eggs are like $6, for it's insane. Everything is just way overpriced. And I don't know how people keep electing the same leaders.
Yeah. It's so weird too because for you guys, like I feel like governors have a lot more power than like our premiers do. It's so funny to see like from, because like we're a lot of our power is national. Like it's a lot of our power is like federalized, whereas like you guys are kind of handled state by state. So it's so funny to watch, like for us up north, to watch the states where each state is handling things completely differently, and you're seeing like how Florida handles things is obviously polar opposite to how California
completely
or
opposite.
but there's like weird, yeah, so much weird shit going on in the news right now, dude. I've been seeing a lot of that stuff with like egg shortages and what's going on with the chickens. Like what the fuck is that all about, man? Like, do you like? What's the news saying, and then what's actually happening? Tell us. We got the
there's been like a lot of fires at like farms and everything that have been killing, a bunch of chickens. The conspiracy theorist or theory is that again they're like Bill Gates is like trying to. I guess he bought up like a bunch of farmland.
Yeah, he owns like 70% of the farmland in America.
So it's more like, again, the conspiracy theory is that it's related to that. And they're trying to push like the artificial meat, stuff like that. I don't know. This last year I've kind of like stayed away from that stuff just because I said it takes a lot of energy, and it's a whole lot of energy and frustration, reading about all that stuff.
Oh, dude. Yeah, we don't have to dive too much into it. It's funny, though, because I literally just saw an ad this morning that McDonald's here in Canada, next week they'll be launching their plant-based chicken nuggets. And I was just like, man, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Dude?
Hey, I mean, again, Andy Frisella says he's going to have us all eating. They're going to have us all eating crickets.
Yeah. Well, fuck. I'm going to try and stay away from that as much as I possibly can, dude. I got... a lot of beef and chicken in my fridge. I'll tell you that right now, man. Fuck that. I do not want to be eating bugs. Yeah, it's so weird, man, because I feel probably similar to how your girl does as well, because Teddy and I were talking about kind of like we had friends moving to Alberta, which is basically the Texas of Canada. They're just next door to us. And then she's dual citizen, so we had the option. We were thinking about, maybe we should go down south. Like we could find somewhere like that's handling things differently than it is here in Canada, because a lot of things that, like, aside from like the restrictions that we had over the last few years, like there's a bunch of we pay stupid amounts of tax on everything, like from income tax to like we've gotten like a new, I don't know if you guys have something like equivalent to this, but like carbon tax is now like plaguing our country.
No, I'm not. I should start checking all my receipts because I'm pretty sure I'll see something like that on there.
Well, we get like a carbon tax on everything. So like when we all of our heating is like natural gas. So on our natural gas bill, there's a carbon tax on that because it's like contributing to climate change now. Yeah. So like our electricity and our heating is like we get taxed on that. Like our fuel is through the roof. Like everything's just like super expensive, and it's just getting worse and worse. And like wages. I mean, I've gotten a few raises in the last few years. Like I'm definitely making more money now, but there was this like debate over the last couple of years constantly where we're like, should we just move? Like this is getting fucked. And I felt kind of like I had this like, obviously I milled over it like for days and weeks and months and years, like literally since probably 2019, I've been like constantly in debate with myself. But I went through this kind of path of thoughts, like this pattern of thoughts where I was like, what's my end goal? For me, my end goal is to have, enough money that I can feel free enough to spend my time how I like it. I like working, so I don't mind doing that. I like my job. But the end goal is to spend time with my family. Like that's what my end all be all is, to be able to hang out with my family, with my sisters, with my parents, with my grandma while she's still around. And, even if I were to move elsewhere and make a lot more money and be able to save a lot more money with lower taxes and, buy a house, like my end goal is to have a place and have my kids be around my parents. And if I were to move away, like I'd be like, okay, I'd get everything except the family part, which seems to be the end goal.
Yeah.
So it's like this constant debate in my head, and the entire time it kind of just has been leading me more towards like, well, I'm already close to my family. Why would I leave? Like it's like a constant kind of mental battle.
Yeah, that's tough. Definitely.
Did you guys like? Is that kind of how the debate goes with you guys as well?
I mean, yeah, I'm not too close with my family. Just the way I grew up, you know. But again, my wife is extremely close to hers. So that's the main thing. Like our end goal is to own our own gym one day. You know, pass that down to our kids. But yeah, I just still don't know if I want to do that in California. You know, like in a perfect world, I just move everyone, move everyone out to Texas or something. You know,
Move the girl's family as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, come. There's better places.
Yeah.
That's sick, man. I feel like the States, there's a lot more opportunity. Just because I feel like each state is so culturally different, but it's still like some unifying, like by like the federal level. Like it's still like, okay, we can go there. There's still like a similar tax system. There's still like the same currency. Like it's the same country,
Yeah.
but each state is so diverse. It's so different. Whereas like here, I feel like it's not really the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. You're definitely right. You know, yeah, you can get polar opposite in the States. You know, as far as viewpoints and just like style of living. You know?
Even within states.
Yeah.
Like even
Definitely.
within like where California is, like Northern Cali is so different than like where LA is and Southern California. Like it's so different. That was one of the things that like astonished me because I was saying earlier, like I've driven up and down the West Coast. So I've been like all over, and like you drive like a couple hours and you're like, am I in a different fucking place? Like what the
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Because again, LA is full of, you know, cities and buildings and stuff, and you can literally drive like 2 miles and be up in the mountains, you know, and people have farms and horses, you know.
dude. So I went to this place. I had this weird morbid story. Like my grandparents used to go down to Nevada every like 6 months. They'd just go down there and vacation there. And my grandpa ended up dying there. And so I flew down to go get his car. And my grandma's down there and she doesn't drive. And so we're down there. It was like right on the border of like Nevada, Arizona, California. Like it was a place called Laughlin, Nevada. And so we spent like a little bit of time there because it's a lot harder to import a body back to Canada than you'd think.
Oh.
So we were spending time down there trying to figure out like the logistics of everything. And we're like, well, let's just like fucking drive around and explore while we're killing time. And I went to this place, is like right on the border. It was in Arizona. And like we went from like this place in Nevada, which is like all casino, all like kind of, you know, like kind of a touristy place. And then we drive into Arizona and we went to this fucking it literally seemed like a village where there's like literally more donkeys than humans. Like, it's like the weirdest fucking place. We go to like the general store and it's like, oh yeah, they close in an hour, and it's like 1 PM. And I'm like, why do they close at 2:00? He's like, oh, because I'm actually the fire chief as well. Man, where the fuck am I? Like, it's like literally instantly I'm in the Wild West. Like, what the fuck?
No, it's weird to think of like growing up in a town where you know like literally everyone there. You like, you know, like again, growing up in LA, I don't even know my neighbors, you know, but like towns like that where growing up, you know, literally every single person. You know, I feel like that'd be so odd.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because Vancouver's like I like we're not as big as LA, obviously. Like the state of California has the same population as our whole country, so
Damn.
yeah, like legitimately, and so like we're not nearly as big of a city. I don't even know how many million, probably like 10 million people live in Vancouver. That's just my rough estimate. Someone can fact check me on that, but yeah, it's weird because for some reason it's still small enough that like Teddy gets mad like every time we go out somewhere. She's like, "How do you know someone everywhere we go?" Like, it's funny, man. It's such a weird place that way. But when did you like start getting? Because obviously you've been training people for how long? Like 2, 3?
No, I've been a trainer since 2010.
Oh damn.
Yeah, so I'm 31.
Oh really?
Yeah. How old
Shit, dude, you don't look it. I'm 27.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured I might be a couple years older than you, but yeah, I pretty much became a trainer right out of high school. So
what made you gravitate towards that as a job? or career?
Man. So I played sports in high school. Football, baseball. Started hitting the weight room and stuff. So I was extremely like shy and I had zero self confidence. And that comes from my childhood. I had been dealing with like depression and anxiety since I was a kid, and didn't realize it. In the gym, it gave me confidence. It gave me something that I was kind of good at. It was like my therapy without even knowing it. So yeah, I was like, man, I enjoy this stuff. And trainers make decent money. So yeah, I got certified and got hired at a gym.
Hell yeah. So you did work on like the kind of like I would call it like the commercial fitness side, like you kind of work in like a big box gym.
Yeah, I did that for about 8 years, and then it was just those gyms treat their trainers like pawns, like they're expendable. So I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I just went private, and it brought back the joy of training. Not focused on numbers and sales, but actually helping people.
Yeah, yeah. I worked in a gym that's probably pretty similar to what you were working in. Like, they actually went bankrupt during the pandemic, so they're not a company anymore. But it was called Steve Nash, like Fitness World. But a lot of our, like the president, the VP of sales, like everybody was from, I believe it was LA Fitness.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe 20, no, I think it was LA Fitness. And a lot of our models in terms of like how we ran the company were brought up from there. I talked to somebody that worked at UFC gym in Hawaii. Shout out to Josh. He was on the podcast, and we literally had identical models of how the business ran in terms of like how like I worked on the sales side for the memberships, but it was like how many calls you had to make a day, how many appointments you had to make, how many like enrollments you were expected to make throughout the day, throughout the month, like what your expectations were. Like they used the same acronyms, like everything was the exact same, and it was like at the end of the day, like it was very frustrating. One of my dreams has always been to open up like a facility, but working there was like one of the most frustrating things because I was like, I know that they preach like this ideology of like wanting to help more people get involved in fitness, and they have like kind of their ways of how they sell it that make them feel good about what they do. But we all know that it's just like treating people as numbers. Like it felt
Yeah, it's
so
all about the
fucking
money.
backwards.
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you to kind of transition into going private?
No, I actually brought a lot of clients with me.
Hell yeah.
But no, it wasn't too difficult. Even like during the pandemic, I was training people at the park, with some weights and a TRX, like getting it done that way. And then, like I said, we bought our house and we converted part of it into a little gym. And then, yeah, like I said, the goal is to open up our own facility. Have you heard of Self-Made Training Facility?
No.
So it's a training facility, so it's not like a gym, but basically they rent out space to trainers. So there's no memberships, like no sales, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm planning on franchising one of those. That way we could focus on giving the trainers the best tools, to train their clients instead of focusing on just signing up members,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the dream. That's the goal right there.
Okay. And were you like, did you have like kind of like a fear at all of like, okay, shit, I'm not going to have like job security or anything like that? Was there ever that fear at all going private?
No. So I had another full-time job while I was doing the private training. So it was more like a part-time thing as far as the training goes. Except now, I'm making enough to do it full-time. But yeah, I had another job. I did work as an ATM technician for a little bit. So that was, where I got my insurance, health insurance and all that stuff. But then, yeah, I left that, actually got fired. So yeah, I left that. And then I actually still have a full-time job. I help adults with disabilities find employment. So I'm like a supervisor for that, but probably going to be leaving that soon, just to focus fully on the main goal.
That's sick. Do you find like people like, cuz I always feel like there's like this weird in between space of like should I be working a full-time job while I chase my dream? Should I quit everything and put all my chips on this? Like, I like that you kind of have the same, it seems like, ideology that I have, like with my podcast, my mental health group, and like this thing going, where I do have like a full-time job. Like I work in construction. I'm a carpenter. So like all my days are spent working in construction and then coming home and grinding, working on the podcast, whether I'm filming or editing or trying to work on marketing or whatever it could be. Do you feel like, there's like a stigma around that, or do you feel like there's kind of, because I feel like we're in like this weird generation of like fake hustlers or entrepreneurial, where like people feel like they're above working for someone else. Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I've had the same thoughts of, whether or not I should have left my other job sooner and everything. The whole, what's the saying, burn the ships.
What's that?
Do you know like the saying about burning the ships?
No.
I can't remember it completely, but there's a story about people invading an island, and they said the best way to win when you're invading the island is to burn your ships.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like, you have no other option. So I've had that thought a lot. Like, should I just quit and make this happen from having pressure on me? But at the end of the day, you do have bills and responsibilities, so you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with our approach.
I feel like a lot of people have this like weird, it's almost like an entitlement of like they're above working to make money. Like they're like, oh, I'm not going to take that job because I won't work for that pay, or I won't work for someone else. Like I need to have my freedom. Like it's like this weird like I said, I view it almost as like an entitlement, but from my perspective, and I feel like you'll probably relate, where it's like if you really want to chase your dream or do anything big like that, you kind of have to be able to make sure that all of your essentials are taken care of. Because I feel like, especially with, well, maybe it's different because I run a podcast, but I feel like for me to be, in a creative mindset and to feel like I can be like free and open with the way I express myself, or be, as carefree as I am with it, like I need to know, oh, all my shit's taken care of. Like I can pay my bills. Like,
yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of entitlement going on, especially with the younger generations. But yeah, I think we view everything similar, where, you got to work hard to get ahead. You're not just going to get things handed to you. Even, there's a lot of people that graduate college with a degree and expect to be making $100K a month or a year, to be put at the top. But no, you still got to start from the bottom, and work your way up and kind of earn. Yeah, you got to earn it, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we align on that. You were saying earlier that you were dealing with kind of like depression and anxiety from a young age, and I relate to that a lot. Like I remember the first time where I had like kind of an alarming experience with my mental health. I was like 9 years old, and it was something that I had said to one of my teachers. Did you know that you were struggling at that time, or is it kind of like more of a reflective, like kind of looking back, you're like, oh, I was in a dark place?
Yeah, definitely looking back. So my parents are divorced when I was 8. Again, both had alcohol issues. I lived with my aunt from 8 years old till adulthood. So growing up, it was weird. Even though I had cousins, I was living with my aunt and my uncle. It never felt like my home, and I grew up feeling like kind of like I didn't belong, and those feelings I just felt as those were normal. Like that's how I'm supposed to feel. You know what I mean? So it wasn't until I got older, and even with spending time with my wife and her family, kind of seeing true family dynamics and stuff, I kind of realized, yeah, like that, that wasn't normal, and even, going throughout high school, my mom passed away when I was 18. So going through all that, having like these thoughts about death and everything, I've thought about like suicide since like my teenage years. Never tried anything, but again, I thought that was normal. I thought that was a normal thing. It probably wasn't until I heard again, like Andy say the same thing. And he said that that's not normal. Like those aren't normal thoughts to think about what would happen if you did this to yourself. And then, yeah, after, getting into like drinking and everything, it just, made everything 10 times worse. During that like last month of like my rock bottom, I think I went to bed every night thinking about like killing myself. Even though I had a family, had a house, I had all these good things. And that's when I like really know, I had to change something. But yeah, it's definitely something that I realized that I've struggled with for a long time. And I just thought it was a normal feeling.
Yeah, it's weird how those things like kind of like I'd say they're it's normal in that a lot of people deal with it, but it's not normal in the sense that we shouldn't. And the weird thing that like kind of motivates me to continue to have these podcasts and these conversations is that the more bizarre thing to me is how many people have these thoughts and then walk around like they don't. And like everyone's kind of like wearing a proverbial mask in that like we're all like kind of fucked and pretending we're not fucked.
Yeah.
And part of what keeps us fucked is that we're pretending we're not fucked.
Yeah. And I think that's also an issue mainly with men, because there's the ego thing, you can't seem weak if you have these thoughts, I am glad, all that's kind of changing, especially these last couple of years. But yeah, it was something like I don't ever remember asking for help for anything, just because in my head it was, it was a sign of weakness, right? Like you're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be able to know how to handle your emotions. You're supposed to know how to, handle life, but like you said, in reality, almost all of us are dealing with something, and if we all talked about it more, I feel like there could be so much progress, so much that could get done.
Yeah. I had a weird experience, like what I was talking about when I was 9 years old. I guess maybe like weird the way, anyways, I had a weird conversation with one of my teachers where I basically was saying like, I was really frustrated at the time. I wasn't really understanding like a lot of my schoolwork. I was really like kind of confused. We were talking about the public school system and how fucking weird it is earlier, but it felt very foreign to me that I had to go to this place, sit in this room, sit still, not talk and run around and joke, like all the things that young boys want to do. And I was like, man, I don't get the point to any of this. Like I feel dumb every day. I feel like every natural urge that I have, I shouldn't have. Like I wanted to run around and play sports and joke and laugh and be loud and do all these things. And what was expected of me was the exact opposite. Like, it's like, sit down, shut up. And I remember talking to my teacher about this. I'm like, I fucking hate everything. Like, this fucking sucks. And I don't want to keep doing this. Like, I fucking want to end it all. And I'm like 9 years old at the time. And so she's alarmed by this, obviously, and tells like my principal. My principal then calls my parents. My parents are like sending me to doctors. And I'm like, holy fuck, I should never have said that. Like, I'm never going to say anything like that ever again. And so, like, from 9 years old, I was like, I'm never going to say anything like that again. Like, if anyone asks me, I'm good. Like, I'm fucking good. Like, and so from then on, it was just like, I'm never talking about this shit ever again. And did you ever have, like, kind of a moment like that where, like, you had, like, almost like a cry for help and it was like handled improperly or?
No, not as a kid, but I was very, very quiet as a kid. My aunt would almost on a daily basis ask me if I was okay. And I was always, yeah, I'm okay, and she tried to put me in like therapy as a kid. And, I always said no. But as I got older, definitely, especially with alcohol, you start to do things where you're trying to get help without actually asking for help, That I noticed that a lot. Like even just talking to my wife, um, I would kind of like almost fish for help without just directly saying, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah.
What did that look like for you? Like, what kinds of things?
Man, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but um, yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Word. Okay. Um. Yeah, man. It's such a bizarre thing that, like you were saying, like it's not normal to have these thoughts. It's such a bizarre thing that so many people have them though, and we just kind of walk around masking or charading that. And it's weird too because I feel like every generation has these types of things, but just doesn't talk about it or uses different words for it. Because, like, if you were to ask, like, I don't know about like you like your family, but like I know if I had the chance to ask like my grandpa, we have like my grandpa was really old, man. Like he was born in 1913, and so like yeah, he grew up in Europe and in Denmark, and they like, dude, there's like pictures in like our family photo album of like Nazis invading. Like if you were to ask him like, yo, were you ever depressed? He'd be like, no. Like I live in a place now, like when he moved to Canada, it's like I live in a place now where there's no bombs like going off, like we have nobody invading us. I work a job, I live in a home. Like what do you mean depressed? Like what the fuck are you talking about? But and then like even I've asked my dad because he runs his own business, and like I've asked him a lot of times where it's like, yo, did you ever feel like you weren't gonna make it? He's like, yeah, every day. Like I was scared every day. Like I had kids to feed, wife to feed, mortgage to pay, and it was like I was scared every day. I'm like, are you ever anxious? He's like, no. Like even though that's the same feeling, they don't use the same word. Like it's such a weird kind of phenomenon. I feel like where it's such a human experience, it's such a human condition, yet we're conditioned to not speak about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy. I do think about what my, I guess, like ancestors, or like during the Great Depression and everything, like the shit that they had to deal with, compared to what we have to deal with now. There's another term, tough times create tough men, and then tough men create easy times create soft men, something like that.
And soft men create hard times.
I think we're, that's happening right now, and I think like for example, my dad, I think he had it pretty easy, because of his grandpa or his dad, basically had to do all the hard shit, and yeah, I don't know, just trying to break that cycle,
Yeah. Hold up. I'm gonna go pee really quick. I've been drinking a lot of coffee, but I don't want to end this yet. But we'll be right back, folks. And we're back. I had to fill my coffee up and get some water, get a pee break. But where were we? I can't remember what we were just talking about. Do you have like any clients or people that you work with that kind of have similar struggles in regards to depression or anxiety or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have a few. I had one guy, which I felt really happy about. He texted me randomly, and I could tell he was going through something, going through a difficult time. So I called him, and he was kind of having some bad thoughts, suicidal thoughts. I kind of just talked to him, and obviously he's doing great, but it's not like that's where the type of clientele that I'm trying to attract. But like just talking to people, these things do get brought up occasionally. And I think the more common one is issues with alcohol. I'm actually surprised how many people have actually come out and said that they do have issues with it.
Was it hard for you to identify when you did?
To identify that I had an issue with alcohol?
Yeah, like I remember the first time I had spoken out loud to somebody where I said, I'm a drug addict. Like that was when I said it for the first time, I was like, holy fuck, I never really thought, because I always had like the idea of like, oh, I don't have a problem. I just really like it. Or I could use responsibly. I'm just not right now. Like, I knew I could quit whenever I wanted. Like, I always had those thoughts in my head. And, like, the first time I said, like, to one of my good buddies, I was like, yo, I'm a drug addict. Like,
Yeah, no, I lied to myself for years. And yeah, it was pretty much the same thing, saying that, like, I'm not an alcoholic. I just, sometimes I get carried away. And then I think once it turned into like the pretty much daily drinking, I was like, okay, like, this is a problem. And I kept trying to quit. I would literally like pray to God every night that I wouldn't drink the next day. And then, certain triggers happen, and it was just a really bad cycle. I would get like a day or two clean and then obviously feel like shit. And the best way to fix that, is having another drink.
yeah.
But yeah, I lied to myself for years, and I even then I lied about being sober. To like my wife, I told her that I wasn't drinking, but I still was, until I hit that rock bottom moment.
Were you like, you said you were praying to God every single night. Like, okay, I pray I'm not, the strength to carry on for one more day. I don't know how your prayers go. Have you always been like a religious or a spiritual person, or are you? Is that just an assumption I'm making?
I am now. But again, growing up, especially in high school, when my mom was sick, I think after that, when she passed, I kind of just, I gave up any of that hope. And then I met my wife, and she's very spiritual, very religious, and we actually got baptized together. I had never been baptized as a kid because of my childhood. And then, since then, and even then, I was still going through my struggles as I got baptized and I was going to church. There's so many times I went to church hungover, like, and again, I would pray and pray. But I guess for whatever reason, the time wasn't right. I still had some other lessons to learn.
And do you feel like having kind of a connection with God or having a spiritual side to yourself has helped you in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much my life has changed. And it's like, I tell my wife all the time, like, it's like almost like it's a plan, like a book written, like it's really crazy to think. I was even telling her about like coming here, right? Like, so we just flew into Canada to meet, a complete stranger, like, and I'm at his house right now.
Hell yeah.
Like a lot of people would think that's just fucking crazy, but I told her, I was like, this feels so natural. Like it's meant to happen, like there's no hesitation. Like it's just like a part of the plan,
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're very big on that, praying, manifesting, whether you are religious, if you just want to think of it as the universe at work, however you want to call it, there's definitely, a higher power working.
Yeah. It's crazy too, man, because there's always kind of a subconscious thought in the back of my head, like, am I doing the right things? Am I going down the right path? And with the, like, obviously, like the Risen Fallen, like a lot of the stuff that I do, like our main logo is an owl, right?
Yeah, I noticed.
And last night I'm going on a run. I'm just running down this street right here, and a fucking owl flies literally right past me and lands in the tree beside me. And I'm like stopping, and I like stop and take a picture and take a video of it. I'm like, yo, this is a fucking sign. Like, I
No,
felt
yeah. Sorry, like I saw your post about the owls, and then I was like, I remember the logo, and I was like, oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, dude, it fired me right up. Like, I was like, yo, this is a fucking sign. Like, that's the way I felt. Like, I was like, yo, this is a sign to just keep pushing down this path. Like, there's obviously, like, you could look at it as like a coincidence, or like, yo, there's a farm right behind us. There's a lot of fucking owls. There's a lot of fucking mice for them to eat and rats for them to eat. And for me, it was just like, yo, for an owl to fly right past me as I'm running, like literally I'm running down the street and he just flew right past me. I'm like, yo, it feels like a sign from God for me. Like, it was like, yo, just keep going down the path you're going. Like, this is all going to work out for you. Like, no matter what comes your way, like, you'll have the strength to keep going. Like, that's even why, like, I've always been kind of like low key obsessed with owls, but that's the reason that the logo was an owl, is because for me it's always symbolized like being able to navigate and dominate like the darkest hours of life. Like that's like what is always symbolized for me. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna ask you about 75 Hard and about how that kind of changed life for you, or like kind of what your journey was like. Um, what brought you to even think about doing 75 Hard?
So I had tried probably about 3 or 4 times before that. Um, I think the furthest I got was like almost 30 days. Um, but after I decided to get sober, I think I waited about a week, for again the withdrawals to go, and then I was like, I got to get back in shape. Like I was still working out when I was drinking and everything, but I was not even near where I used to be. And I was like, okay, like 75 Hard. I know how much this has changed other people's lives, and I know what I need is discipline again. Like this is what I need to do, So I fully committed into it. Like same thing like with the sobriety. There was no leaving that door open. I had fully shut it. I had fully made the decision. And I think I owe my life to it almost, like having that structure and, even just seeing how my body changed, like over the 75 days, reading the books, everything. I think that's what I needed at that time in my life was that structure and like a daily list of things to do, to keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest struggle for you while you're doing 75 Hard?
Probably getting in the reading and the second workout only because of the kids. Like I had to make sure, I read like early in the morning before the kids got up.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a morning reader too, man. Everyone says that they read at night. They're like, oh, it's how I relax. I'm like, man, if I read at night, I fucking fall asleep.
Yeah, no, I can't. As soon as I sit down, or as soon as like the boys are in bed, my mind's off. I can't learn anything.
How'd you get your second workout in? How would you? Because a lot of people, that's like their main excuse. They're like, oh, I have no time. I'm a parent.
Most of the days I would grab a jump rope, just go outside, jump rope and push-ups for 45 minutes. The first workout was always easy. Like I said, I have like a gym in my house. So, that was very consistent, very easy. But the other days I would either just go for a long walk, with the kids, in the stroller, or I'd let them play while I jump roped.
Fuck yeah. That's wicked, man. And for yourself, like, would you say like your sobriety is like one of the main takeaways that you have from that experience, or like how else has it changed your life?
Yeah, the sobriety, and again the discipline, the mental toughness. It really shows you what you can get accomplished, when you set your mind to it, when you make something a priority. I honestly to be honest, I feel like I was the happiest in my life when I was doing it.
Yeah.
Just going out, like I was so fulfilled, like every day knowing that I got this done. I was looking forward to the next morning so I can knock out, the tasks every day. It was probably, like one of the highlights, not that I'm not happy right now, but like I felt unstoppable, doing it. And I think it's proven to me that I can literally do anything,
Yeah. There's, I just finished another round of it. I find that I do 75 Hard pretty much once a year now. Just to kind of keep my mind sharp. Anytime I find myself slipping, I start another round because I'm like, fuck, I need to redo this. And like last year, last year I was training and I was in the gym and I just finished a jiu-jitsu class and I step on the scale and I'm usually around like 200 pounds, but I step on the scale and I'm at like 220, 225. And I'm like, fuck, I'm fat again. Like I was always like a naturally, like a heavier kid. And so like, I feel like, there's two types of like, there's obviously more, but there's always like the naturally skinny guys that have to work to get jacked. And then there's the naturally chunky guys that have to work to slim down. Like I've always been on that end of the spectrum. And so like for me, I caught myself slipping. I'm like, man, I'm 220, 225 right now. I remember I called Teddy on the way home from the gym. I'm like, I got fat again. Just, fuck.
Just all of a sudden.
Yeah, like it happened in one day. I'm like, I've been fucking slipping. And that was when I decided, like, it was like October last year. I'm like, I need to do another round. And so I finished up probably mid-December. And this time around, I was noticing how much stress and anxiety was alleviated the more I do in my day. Like, a lot of the times, like, it was fucking cold and rainy, and my first workout of the day was always a run. Like, it was like a 45-minute run just around, like, the neighborhood here. And, I'd finish up my run, I'd do my reading, I'd shower up, I'd get ready for my day at work in construction. I'd fucking go and work like 8 to 10 hours. I'd come home. I'd be lifting weights here or going to a jiu-jitsu class. I actually hadn't found a new jiu-jitsu gym yet at the time, and we just moved here, so I was just lifting weights every day. And there was all this shit that I was doing every day where, I didn't want to do those things. Like, I was like, fuck, man, I don't want to go run outside in the cold and rain, get soaking wet, and then have to work in construction and then have to lift weights. Like, there was all of these things I was doing that I didn't want to do, where, like, even when the most, simplest things that would piss me off or annoy me in my regular life, when they would come up, I'd be like, all right, let's do it. Let's bang it out. Like, it was just like always, like, I felt like my stress and my anxiety levels were the lowest the more I was doing. Have you found similar things?
Yeah, man. It's crazy what you think about, like, what your potential could be if you made yourself do the shit that you didn't want to do. Like, we all have stuff that we don't like to do, but if you made yourself do them anyways, like, your career, your relationship, everything, is going to improve, But my wife just mentioned the other day, like, I used to have a huge, like, fear of making phone calls. Like, I had like a phobia of it ever since I was a kid.
I feel like that's normal. I feel like a lot of people in our generation are like that.
Yeah, like ever since I was a kid, like it gave me so much anxiety to have to make a phone call. She brought it up the other day that, like, now there's like zero hesitation. Like, a phone call needs to be made, like, or an appointment needs to be made. Like, I'm handling it. Where she used to have to be the one, that would do those things. So,
you're like, honey, can you call them?
yeah.
That's awesome, man. Have you seen any other, like, weird changes or, like, little changes that you didn't expect in your maybe your personality or anything in your life like that?
Yeah. So I think I had less patience for people with excuses. Like, anytime I'd hear any type of excuse, it would just piss me off. I feel like that's the one that surprised me the most. I think
you have less patience now or more patience
no,
now?
less. When it comes to, like, people with excuses.
Yeah.
Like, it's just because, they're bullshit.
I was going to say, I'm the same way. Because if you said you had more patience, I'm like, really?
No. Like, even, like, I'm sure I pissed off my wife a couple times when, she would, like, say something or have an excuse why she couldn't work out. And I'm like, if it's a priority, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Dude, I'm the exact same. I like, that's one of the funny things. Anytime someone comes to me with an issue now, which is funny because obviously a lot of people come to me and they either DM me or they talk to me in person about, like, things that they're going through in life. And after doing 75 hard a few times, it's like a lot of the times I'm like, so you're telling me you know the solution and you're not doing it? What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck? But it's so funny to think back to my past self, and I realize now that a lot of it is, like, frustration with my past self that I project on them, where it's like, I used to be that guy. Like, I literally just wrote about it in my journal last night, where it's like, I've been putting things off my whole life. Like, yeah. It's just like so much of my frustration and anger that I have in other people is just shit that I've done.
No, yeah, definitely.
Throughout, like, my addictions or throughout, like, my whole life of, like I said, dude, I'm naturally, like, the fat guy. Like, I was the guy that couldn't put down a fucking bag of chips or like that couldn't fucking not eat out at restaurants. And, like, anytime I ate out at restaurants, I'd be like, oh, we're going out. We're going to, like, we're going to eat. So I have to eat a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up a heavy kid also. I think in, like, 7th grade, I was, like, 180.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I was a heavy kid. And then, high school came in puberty and sports. But, yeah, I mean, when it comes to eating, man, like, I was taught to finish your plate. Like, no matter what. Like, I'd be stuffed and I'd still force myself to finish,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a rule at my parents' place where it was like, if you don't finish what's on your plate, you don't get to get up from the table. So you sit there all night. You don't fucking finish your food. Like, that was literally what we were told. Like, it was like, you don't finish your dinner, you don't get to get up.
Same here.
It's so funny, man. Do you have like any clients that you recommend? You're like, yo, you gotta do 75 hard, man.
Yeah, man. One of my clients just finished it.
Yeah.
And dude, amazing results. And the thing is, he's struggling with alcohol also, and for him to go that long without it, with even that itself was an accomplishment. But he dropped like over 20 pounds, like I don't know, like 12% body fat throughout the whole thing. So
Holy shit.
and he did it like with like some of the hardest like circumstances, like he'd be working all day and wouldn't be able to get his second workout done until like 10 p.m. But he made sure that he did it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fuck, I had days like that, man.
Yeah.
When I was moving, there was like a 2-week period where I lived at my old apartment for like 2 years. And so I had to get it in like tip top shape so I could get my damage deposit back. And before I moved in here, I had to redo all the walls, and I painted all the walls. I got this place all set up. I had to redo some of the tiles around this place. And so there was days where I'd wake up at like 4 a.m., do my run, work in construction until like 5 o'clock at night, get home, clean my apartment, do a workout, come here, paint the walls, fix the walls, do everything there. Wouldn't get home till like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And then I'm like, I have to fucking finish my reading, or I have to slam a bunch of water now, or like there's always something else. And it was like, man, I'm sleeping like 4 hours a night. Like it was like, I feel like, yeah, life's fucked. Life's hectic.
Yeah.
And like there's a million fucking excuses. Like everyone, whether like, I mean, like obviously everyone's going to say their situation's worse. Like everyone's going to feel that way. But it's like everyone's got their own version of an excuse. Because if you don't have kids, then you're diving like 100% into your career. If you don't have a career, then you're diving 100% into some other fucking problem that you have.
Yeah, it's always something. And that's one thing I told myself was that, like, for example, Andy, dude runs I don't know how many companies, and like he gets it done. If there's anyone that's too busy, it would be him. And then I've read stories about a single mom with like 3 kids finishing 75 hard, like literally any excuse that you have, someone's done it.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy. And do you think that doing 75 hard brought you and your girl closer together? Like, do you feel like a better husband? Do you feel like a better man? Do you?
Yeah, I have way more confidence, which obviously helps in again every aspect of life, But yeah, definitely a relationship, and the big part of that is being sober. I don't even think we've really had any arguments since I've been sober.
Wow.
When it used to be almost like a daily thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like ever since that change, ever since doing 75 hard, like I said, every single aspect, of my life has improved.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that kind of dealing with like depression and anxiety growing up, do you feel like that makes you a better fit to help people with their journeys?
Oh, absolutely. It's to be able to relate to people and understand. I've been through a lot, in my life. Not only that, like I forgot to mention, my family was homeless for a little while, when I was a kid, when my parents were going through their shit. Like I've been through like all kinds, like obviously I've had loss, losing my mom and, other family members, not having enough money to eat type of thing. Like I've been through so much that I can relate to almost everything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think? Because you said you had kind of like times where you were you had suicidal thoughts. You had times where you were homeless. You had times dealing with loss of family members. What do you think kept pushing you to continue going?
That's a hard one. I want to say like I didn't have the balls to pull it off, like which is a good thing,
Been there.
Like I think at my worst I got to the point where I was wasted and I held an empty gun up to my head, and of course I'm pulling the trigger and everything, but it's empty. Like that was probably as close as I had got. But yeah, I think deep down I knew I didn't want to do that. Like obviously, like I knew, I loved my family. I wanted to see my kids grow up. Actually, I think that was probably the main thing was as I would kind of lay in bed and like fantasize about doing it, was the thought that I wouldn't be able to see my kids grow up. I think that's, now that I think about it, was like the main thing.
Did you have a drive to continue to keep going before you had kids though?
Before I had my kids, it wasn't as bad. So like I would have these small thoughts, on how it would be, how I would do it, who would miss me, like those type of things. But it got really, really bad, once my kids were already here. And the funny thing is, I always said that, once I have kids, I'll stop drinking, and it was never enough because I had to do it for me, not for them.
It happened, just not in time.
Yeah.
Not in the same time you planned.
Yeah. So yeah, it got really bad where I was really, really thinking about it, like I said, on a daily basis. Once I already had the kids.
How much did you change when you had kids?
Not enough.
Such an honest answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, not until like this past year. This past year was a transformative year for me. I was still too selfish, when I had my first kid, and then again, I kept telling myself when my wife was pregnant with my second son, once he comes, I'm gonna get my shit together, and then it would be like New Year's, right? Like once New Year's comes, I'll get my shit together, and it wasn't until that moment or when the time came, but yeah, not enough, but until now.
Yeah. And how much more do you feel like you're a better role model for your kids now? Because you got 2 sons, right?
Yeah. Now, man, like I'm excited. Like I'm excited to be the man that I'm supposed to be for them. Like again, I have so much confidence in myself that, yeah, like again, I think it's all a part of the journey. I had to go through these things to learn and, to teach them, as I get older. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. I had a conversation last week, or a couple weeks ago on the podcast, talking about how, a lot of us, we have role models that will tell us what to do, and they'll, always have some sort of character defects. We all do, like every human does. But I just feel like some of the best way, I feel like the best way to be a role model and to be like a good father, like I don't have kids yet, but is to live the way that you want someone to live. And do you think that a lot of people do that in today's day and age? Do you think that there's a lot of good role models out there, or do you think that kind of we're losing that, or we're gaining that, or what's your kind of look on that?
I would say we're starting to gain that, and I think a lot of it's through social media, but that could just be because those are the people that I follow.
Yeah.
Like I know I didn't have a role model growing up, and I think before social media, a lot of people didn't have anywhere to go to learn how to be a man and how to how to live life the way it's supposed to be lived. And unless you were playing sports, like you weren't really around that. Like obviously coaches play a huge role in, teaching the youth. So I would say now it's I think it's getting better, and hopefully through social media. I know there's a lot of bad shit with social media.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of good stuff,
What would you say? Because I had this conversation actually at the gym. It was funny because I was talking to one of the black belts in my gym, and he was like, he just figured out that I had a podcast, and he's like, "Oh, what's your podcast about?" And I started telling him about it, and then I'm like, "Yeah, actually, there's someone like flying out from California, like to come and chat on the podcast as well." And he's like, "Oh, how do you guys know? Like, do you guys know each other?" I'm like, "No, we connected through social media." And we started talking about like social media and the internet, and how like there's people that literally will have never lived without social media. And he's like, "Yeah, the internet can be such a cool place." I'm like, "Yeah, it can be."
Yeah, yeah.
It's not always, but it
Yeah.
can be for sure. What do you think is like your favorite and least favorite thing about social media?
At least favorite has to be like the trolls, definitely. And then all the like the TikTok challenges that get people sick or killed. Like little stupid shit like that. The best thing is networking. Obviously, meeting people. I've learned, I don't even know how much just about fitness. Again, personal development. All of that came from social media. So I don't know if I would have been able to pick up all this, if that wasn't around. I think we came in to social media and the internet at the right time, to where it's not our whole life. We have a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I always yeah, social media is such a weird fucking place. I could go on for hours about how much I love / hate it, because there's so many aspects that I love about it, but a lot of the things I'm like, I fucking hate this. Like,
Yeah.
TikTok should be banned.
Yeah.
TikTok should be banned, man. I hate that a lot of like what happens on, like, especially like a lot of the people, like I obviously follow a lot of like mental health and self-development stuff, like fitness stuff, but I feel like on the mental health side of social media is like this it's like almost like a side of mental health that I really think keeps people in that struggle, in terms of like, oh, it's okay if you need to do like your self-care, like stay in, have a bottle of wine, watch Netflix, like you don't need to make
Yeah, no,
yourself
it's the
better.
victim.
You're
The
already
victim, yeah.
perfect. Like it's like, man, like 90% of these social influencers around mental health are like completely back-ass words. Is that how you say it? I don't know how to fucking say
Yeah,
it.
I get you.
But it's just like so fucking backwards, man. And yeah, it's just so frustrating, man, because I feel like it's literally the exact opposite of what people need to be told.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that's a whole victim mentality, right? Like, it's okay. You have the right to feel that way. It's like, okay, well, what you really need is someone to call you out on your bullshit, and help you get your life together. I think I was blessed that my wife is that way. She called me, she doesn't sugarcoat things, and again, I don't think I would be where I'm at right now. Like, I know I wouldn't, without her and her tough love.
Did you have a moment where you're like, man, she just doesn't get how hard it is? Like, she doesn't understand who I am?
No, definitely. There's definitely a lot of times where I felt like I needed, like that comfort, but again, in reality, I needed the truth,
Yeah, I felt like that before. That's something that I write down in my journal all the time, is like, when I'm feeling like I need comfort, it's because I've had too much. That's what I write about all the time, man. That's where I get a lot of my reflection done. Like I either literally just sit and talk to my phone and listen back to it, or I'm just like writing in conversation to myself. Like, it's like, now that I say that out loud, it sounds crazy, but that's like, literally.
No, I got to work on the journaling. That's something that was recommended to me actually when I was a kid, again, because I was so quiet, right? Like, and they thought I needed therapy. So I remember someone gifted me a journal, and I just did not know what to write. It's weird. It's kind of like meditating, where you gotta have to like let your thoughts flow without pushing them anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's something I definitely want to do, and yeah, make that a habit of.
Have you read Meditations, Marcus Aurelius?
No, that's on my that's another reason. Like, it's on my list, but the knowledge that has been passed down from him from doing that is crazy.
Yeah, because it's literally his journal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's so much to learn from it, and all he did was journal. I don't think he had any intention of it getting out.
No.
He was just journaling.
Yeah, literally. There's one of the people I follow on social media is Ryan Holiday, Daily Stoic.
Yeah, I love that guy.
And dude, he talks about it all the time. He was like, even one of his episodes, he's like, if Marcus Aurelius knew we were reading this, he'd be mortified, because it's literally his journal.
Yeah.
And I never liked the idea of journaling. I thought it was like kind of like fucking lame. I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna keep a diary. Like that's fucking
Yeah. No, same here. You know. And that always kept me from trying it, you know. But now I've been trying. I have like an app on my phone, but I want to start actually, you know, physically writing it.
Yeah, I have an app on my computer that I started doing it. And it's on my phone too. But I fucking hate typing things. Like I'm definitely a pen and paper person. Like even when I worked in sales, like I had a fat logbook of like every customer and their phone number and like what we talked about, and like that's just how I'm a weird guy that way. But yeah, Marcus Aurelius Meditations was like one of the game changers that made me journal more, because I was like, man, it was like the first representation of like, oh, this is a war general. And he journals. Like, this is like an alpha male. Like, he hunts. He's going to war. He leads an army. He's a fucking emperor of Rome. And he's journaling. Like, that it seems like it was the first representation of like, oh, this is a badass thing to do.
Yeah. And Stoics were badass, just in general. A lot of people just think of them as just philosophers, like sitting and writing all the time. But no, they were very into like, you know, exercise and pushing the body and you know, self-development.
Hell yeah, man. You were saying you want to start your own podcast. I really think you should, man. You got like kind of like a smooth radio voice, dude. It's like soothing to listen to.
Dude, I've always like hated my voice.
No, dude, it's soothing to listen to. I feel like everyone feels the same way, because I hate my own voice too. Like I feel like there's like this self-conscious voice inside your head where I sound dumb when I say that, or my voice sounds weird.
Yeah.
Like I always get that too, man. But you got that smooth radio voice, man. You should definitely fucking do it. I think this is a beautiful place to kind of wrap things up, because I'm getting fucking hungry. I think we should go grab a bite to eat.
Yeah.
Did you have anything that you kind of wanted to share with everybody listening to this, or did you have any topics that we wanted to discuss before we wrap this up? Put a little bow on top.
No, I mean, like I said, the main things were, you know, covering the mental health, you know, 75 hard discipline. But yeah, I mean, if you are going through shit, you know, there's other people going through the exact same thing, you know, that can help, especially for men. I know men need to talk about that more often. You know, it doesn't make you weak, it actually makes you stronger. So
yeah, why do you think it is that kind of like men have that built-in feeling of like, I shouldn't be talking about this?
You know, I don't know if that's just passed down, you know, from generations, or, you know, like the media influences a lot of shit, you know, in society. Yeah, I mean, if you look at like, if you were to watch TV or watch movies or anything of like the men, they're not, you know, talking about their feelings, right? They're doing like some badass shit, you know, like all the time. But that's not reality, you know. So I think it could be a mix of both.
Yeah. Do you ever watch Fresh Prince growing up?
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude,
It's my childhood.
I was rewatching it recently, and I think my favorite moment, the most iconic moment, is that time where he's talking to Uncle Phil, and he's like, "Man, I can do all this shit without my dad. Like, I don't need him to do this. I don't need him to do that." And then there's that moment where he looks at his uncle and he goes, "And like, why doesn't he want me?"
Yeah,
and
no,
he just breaks down and cries in his arms.
I remember that scene like vividly. You know. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I think Will Smith said that those are like real emotions, you know, because I don't think he had his father around.
I don't know.
But yeah, I remember that scene, you know.
Yeah, it's so iconic. It sticks in my brain as well, because that was like one of the only things I can recall of like a cool, funny, like kind of like badass dude, and then he has that moment of like breakdown of like actually talking, like he's like flexing, like I don't need him, and then he's like, but why doesn't he want me? And he just breaks, and I was like, man, why don't we have those moments more often?
Yeah,
it was just like such a fucking like I thought back to it because someone clipped it on Instagram, and I saw it the other day, and I was like, fuck, man, there's such a good moment. Like TV never has that shit now.
Yeah, not anymore, or not at all. Not so much back then, and definitely not now.
Yeah.
Now everyone's just obsessed with reality, you know, reality TV.
Oh fuck, man, I fucking hate it. I can't fucking. I don't watch anything. Like, my girl gets really mad at me all the time because I'm like, I don't want to fucking watch it. I don't want to fucking watch it anymore. I'm so fucking tired of it. Even sports nowadays is like fucking reality TV. I just can't do it, man. But yeah, dude, let's wrap this up. Give a nice little plug. Give a little plug for everything that people got to know about you, your Instagram, anything like that, and then share a little positive message, and we'll wrap this up.
Oh yeah. So my Instagram is at Authier Fitness, and it's AUTHIER_fitness. And positive message.
Yeah, give us something to motivate us, something that people can remember when they're on a run or some shit.
All right. So one of my favorite quotes is, "Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it."
I love that, man. I love that. That's like, you don't control the world. You control how you react to it.
Yeah, and that's a big stoicism message. So,
hell yeah. Well, happy Thursday, everybody. Hope your week's going well. If it's not, reflect on why that is and fucking fix it. We love you all. Much love from California and Vancouver. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye.